So here's the neck with those two facets formed, and a little bit of the blending has occurred here. There's more to do here, and I'll be demonstrating a little more here, I suppose. Um, this portion of the neck blank is going to end up getting thinner. And so there's some blending that has to be done here, as well as bringing these two facets up. But right now, the thing to observe is the general shape that I have here. This is what you're looking for. I'm going to start these, and I'm going to work in this area too a little bit as I do this. Now I've turned my neck carving jig around, jig, stand, whatever you want to call it. I've turned it around because now I want to be standing in front of the headpiece looking that way, because I'm starting to look a little bit closer at symmetry. So I'm going to reposition the camera and demonstrate from there. So I'm ready to begin. I've changed the position of my clamps. I have one down over the heel because I need to get to this area, and another one up at the headpiece. If you're interested at all, I happen to use these Bessie Tradesman's clamps. I don't suppose brand is all that important, and I'm certainly not advising that you go out and buy these particular clamps, but I like them. They're very durable. They are very strong, and so I've come to favor them over the years, but I'm sure there are many good ones. Once again, the trick here is to, whatever you do to one side of the neck, you do it to the other side of the neck before you move to the next operation. So I'm going to cut my secondary facet, and I want to look at the center of the neck, and once more I want to bring that facet up and keep the inner edges of it parallel with the center of the neck. Now you could do that by drawing a center line down through your neck, I suppose, but I'm fortunate. I've got a dark center laminate here, so I'm going to use that as my center, and I'm just going to come right up to it, or pretty close to it. And I'm in here with my down and dirty rasp again. This is a little bit more challenging up in this area when you get toward the heel, because you can kind of mess things up there that you've already done. So a little judicious filing is to be done up there. And you can probably already see that this doesn't take much. I'm not removing an awful lot of material here, but this is an important step. Creating facets as you go, I think, is very important. It will make it easier for you to achieve a consistently formed neck. All right, there's one side, and we go for the other. And again, I'm trying to maintain whatever angle I have here. I'd like to maintain that over here. Now another thing I can do is right in this area, in the transition area, it's hard to get a rasp in there sometimes, so I'm just going to take this knife here. By the way, this is a knife made out of a piece of a file. I ground the teeth off of it and put an edge on it, super glued or epoxied a file handle to it. Boy, these things are nice. It's hard to get a sharp edge on them because they're so darn hard, but once you do, that edge is going to hold up. So I'm just going to waste a little bit of that stuff. It's fast and it's easy. And if you meet with resistance, that is, if the grain direction backfires on you and this is starting to try and split things away, then give it up and go back to a file or a rasp or whatever technique works best for you to make that happen. So that's enough of that. I can get back in here with my file, my rasp. And there is my secondary bevel, or should I say secondary facet. So the next thing will be to continue to bring this transition in, and this will have to be thinned down. In quick review, I have all of my facets cut into this, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to taper the neck from here and blend in the back of the headpiece, but I'm going to taper from here down here to the 12th or 14th fret vicinity. Okay, um, my neck right here is as thick as I want it. I'm not going to thin this out hardly at all, and down here I'm going to remove a fair amount of material. To determine how much I have to remove in this region, I take a caliper and I put it against the fingerboard, and I determine the distance that I want to go below that truss rod. And I'm going to look for that distance over here. Now, as you can see, I'm nowhere near it. But I need to blend this area in and get to that dimension or very close to it before I do any tapering here. And it's very, very important. So that'll be our next step. Now, this part of carving a neck, to my mind, is the most frustrating. If somebody said, is there any part that you don't like, this would be it. The reason being that the neck shaft here overlaps the headpiece. There's a glue joint right here. You can probably see the transition line. So it's very easy to chip this away, and you want to avoid that. We don't want any mess ups at this point. So my technique for doing that, you can get in there with a knife some, but you just don't want to get underneath that neck shaft and raise too much wood at once to avoid chipping. So you can work at it thusly with a knife, but I think it's just as legitimate to get in there with this razor file, this rasp, and just pull that away gently. And we're going to decrease in thickness from this point right here at the joint all the way out there. We're going to bevel that back a little bit. So I'm just starting the process here to get it going. And I'm working carefully both sides. We don't want to lose sight of symmetry, and we don't want to bevel the underside of the headpiece off either. So care must be taken. And once you get to a certain point, it's legitimate to even put a scraper in there. Now I've got this pretty well formed. That is pretty well started, I should say. And I'm away from the headpiece itself. So I'm going to get aggressive with a rasp here. And I'm going to dig away till I get to about this point right here. Somewhere, till I overlap the end of the fingerboard. About there. Good enough. Rather than tilting the rasp thusly, I'm tilting it a little bit counterintuitive, but this way I find that you're not digging into this area quite as aggressively, and you're smoothing your way through that curve. But when I get over here, I can be a little bit more aggressive, and I want to. And I'm going to go back to my down and dirty rasp again. So now I want to start watching carefully, and I want to remove this, take it out of the clamp, and I want to put my gauge on here, and you see I'm there. I'm already right there. My caliper is fitting nicely. So I don't need to go any deeper at that point. I'm good. So back in the clamp, because now I want to refine that out and bring that to a finish and a shape that is pleasing and smooth. And now I'll be working each side of that center strip and downward a little bit, not getting thinner there, just working each side of it for the most part, except in this region, still coming down here. If you can do this part of guitar making, you can do anything. I love this bocote. I like the color. I like the diversity and the grain in it. But boy, this stuff is greasy. Oh, all right. I'm pretty close. Now I'm going to take my scraper and I'm going to work back toward the headpiece. I don't want to force down on it too much in this direction because I don't want to tear that transition at all. You can some, you just have to be careful. Finesse, always. And I've even found that if you have trouble in this region, if you have trouble with a little bit of chipping, stop what you're doing. Just take a little bit of thin super glue, and if you drip that in there, it seems to solidify that just enough so that you've got a little bit more ability to get in there and work at it without tearing things up. So, as I hope you can see, that I am working each side little by little. And see, I can feel a little bump there and a little bump there, but it's not time to worry about that yet, quite. Right now, it's just time to get that symmetrical. Smooth this area out, slightly stroke up the back of the headpiece, won't hurt anything. And now I'm at the dimension of thickness that I need. But this is not shaped. This is still quite flat. I'm not going to like that as a finished neck. But now we are going to taper the back of the neck.